Hello guys, welcome to the market commentary for today. Today is September the 17th, it's a Friday, so hopefully you guys have had a great trading week so far and hopefully it'll end well as well. Let me just cover the disclaimers. They are up there on the left-hand side, top left-hand side, so please read them, not just for legal reasons, but also to understand that these kind of videos are demonstrations. Now my name is Becky, my email address is here, it's becky@tradictive.com. And there's also support@tradictive.com, so you can email either one of those if you have questions. Now, the 3D market commentary, what we do every day, if you are a free member of Trade with UFOs, then you get an email every day that has information on 5 major world markets with 3 different elements that we look at. That's why we call it a 3D market commentary. In order to get that, you just need to go to tradewithufos.com/Becky. That's the link up here. tradewithufos.com/Becky. At the top, you can get yourself a free Trade with UFOs membership at the top there. And then that way, you will then be able to get this email that I'm about to show you will come to you every day. Also, from this link, you should be able to come down and book one-on-one coaching with me if you want to. But most importantly, you can ask questions here in a public space, which is great because it means I can then answer it in a public space and everybody learns from this environment together. So ideally, this is where you'd go to post questions. Okay, so let's show you the 3D market commentary, or the news flash that we send out on which these 3D market commentary videos are based. So on the left hand side, that's the email that we send out. On the right hand side is obviously the markets that it corresponds to. So I'll go through all of them, or both of them. So as I said, it's a 3D approach, hence 3D market commentary. We're looking at 3 separate elements. First things first, market climate, upcoming market direction. Where do we have probabilities? Up, down, nowhere. And therefore, do we buy, sell, or do nothing? Do we go long or short, or maybe change timeframes, change markets? Now, in order to answer that question, we use technology, and we use technology with actually every question that we have when we trade. In order to answer the first question, we use AutoClimate. AutoClimate is a free app. You can download it on multiple platforms. Free app on most platforms, you can get it on. Now with AutoClimate, ignore the lines, just focus on the dots. The dots tell us where the probabilities are, what the upcoming market direction is more likely to be. So if it's a thick red dot, like one of these, that tells us probability is downwards. Thick red dot is probability downwards. If we have a thick blue dot, that tells us probability upwards. If we had a thin dot, like one of these, or like one of these, of either colour, the fact that it's a thin dot is telling us that we don't have enough probabilities either way. So it's either thick red and it's down, thick blue and it's up, or thin and it's neither way. So we use that app, this technology here, to help us answer that question. So we'll look at that per market. Then what we want to do is figure out, okay, if we are going to buy, where are we going to buy? If we are going to sell, where are we going to sell? And where do we figure out, how do we answer that question? Where do we figure out where that's going to be? Now for us, again, we use technology. We are using AutoUFOs to show us where buyers are and where sellers are. Now why is that important? The only way price can go up is if you have more buyers than sellers. So knowing where the buyers are gives us a good idea of where we should be buying, gives us more probability that price goes up from there. If price goes down, the only way it can go down is if you have more sellers than buyers. And so we want to know where the sellers are. So that gives us more probability that price falls from there. So again, we're using technology to highlight this for us, and it even tells us on the right hand side here what the prices are, between which prices that we have buyers and sellers. So we'll look at that per market as well. And then the last thing we'll look at is market volatility. How quickly will these markets move, which corresponds to the potential risk and reward available in these markets. Okay, so let's start with the S&P. The S&P 500 is the top 500 US stocks, and we're looking at the ES, so the futures contract for it. Now, for those of you that might not know, futures are essentially representations, sort of derivatives of these markets. So right now we are essentially looking at a representation of the US stock market. Now what we see here, first things first, is our climate tells us we have probability down. It's a thick red dot. In fact, what I'm going to do, if I space that out, it's probably much easier to see those dots. So it's a thick red dot that tells us probability is downwards. Now what we also have, if I just squidge this a little bit, let's do this. Squidge it. What we also have is sell orders just above us here between 45.49.50 to 44.85.50. So we've got sell orders just above us. Buy orders slightly further down here, all the way down at 41.23 to 40.55.50. So we have probability down with the climate. We have sellers closer to us, and we've got a lot of room to go before we hit buyers. So lots of sort of probability pointing to the downside. However, this market would usually go down for 3 candles, and we're on candle number 6. So it has gone past what would be its usual move to the downside. So bear that in mind. Still overall probability down though. Now with volatility, we would expect, each of these numbers by the way, are movements that we would expect up or down. So in 1 year, the movement up or down would be expected to be 19.17%. In a day, that's 53.77 points. In a week, 118.37 points. And in a month, 246.41 points. So that's the volatility, the speed at which we would expect these markets to move, or how far we expect them to move within those given periods of time, up or down. Okay, now moving on to the next market, which is oil. In the meantime, it says there about educating yourself. We do offer loads of different courses in stocks, forex, futures, backtesting, psychology, trading plans. So you can take any one of those courses if you think they'll be useful. Now, most of them also come with 3-month complimentary access to the apps. AutoClimate is a free app on most platforms you use it on anyway. AutoUFOs is a paid-for subscription for that app. It's not very much, and you can subscribe directly to it. You don't have to do a course. You can just get the UFOs as they are. But a lot of times doing a course is actually a cheaper way to access the UFOs anyway. Okay, so with oil, what I'm going to do is just squidge this a little bit here so we can really see what's going on. Now with oil, we have a confirmed upwards climate. We have a thick blue dot there that's telling us probability is upwards. Now usually oil would go up for 7 candles, and we're on candle number 5. So in theory, more room for it to go up based on what usually happens. However, we should be aware that we have sell orders just above us here at 74.23 to 72.93, just above us, and they've actually already worked a little bit to push price down. We also have buy orders just beneath us at 71.22 to 69.51. So what we have at the moment, if we do this visually, is we've got buying pressure coming from the climate. We've got buying pressure beneath us with the UFOs. We've got room for it to continue based on what usually happens. But we have sellers pushing down on top of us. So if you had to call it, there are more things lining up to the upside than to the downside, but we do have something in the way to the upside. So bear that in mind. It's not a clear run. It's not a full set of probabilities, shall we say. Now notice I'm sort of using the words probabilities and statistics. This is all about putting as many probabilities on our side as possible. Unfortunately, in the markets, that's never going to be 100% probability. Of course, we might still be wrong, so we manage our risk just in case. We might even do other things or add in other elements in order to add extra probabilities if we need to. But for us, there's definitely no point trading if you don't at least have some probabilities. Again, which is why we use technology to show us where those probabilities are. Okay, so with crude oil as well, we would expect in 1 year movement up or down of 33.16%, which is 1.5 points up or down in a day. In a week is 3.3 points, and in a month 6.87 points up or down. So that's crude oil. Now moving on to the next market, which is gold. So if we check out gold. Now, in the meantime, it says there about coaching and support. We do a bunch of courses, sort of sessions online on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, things like that, which you can access for free. We also have a closed coaching community for a small monthly fee to access more of our time in a closed environment. Or, like I said, you can, of course, join us on a lot of the free sessions that we put out anyway. Okay, so gold, we have a confirmed downwards climate on gold. Normally, gold would go down for 7 candles. And we're on candle number 2. So we have room for it to continue to the downside. We have sell orders above us here at 1866 to 1804.4. They've already worked a few times to push price down each time prices come into them. So they're working to push price down. That's why we want to know where they are, so that we know where to sell as well. So we've got selling pressure coming from the climate and from the UFO ahead of us. Just double check something here. I think I've just lost my stream for a second. That's strange. That's very strange. Give me a sec here, guys. Oh. I think I've just had a pop-up message to say that I've lost my stream, but I'm not sure that I have. So let me just double check here. Okay, I think that should be all good. Sorry about that, guys. That shouldn't have happened, but it looks like we're okay. Are we streaming? Yes, we are. Sorry about that. To sort of cut off midway. Let me just check this as well and double check that we're all good. Okay, sorry about that. So where were we? We were looking at gold. We have selling pressure to the downside, but we also have buying pressure just beneath us. So we've got 1739.4 to 1718.5. That's the closest stack of buy orders. So we should be aware of that if we're selling. But overall, still probability down here with gold. So market volatility with gold. We would expect in a year movement up or down of 15.92%, which is 17.71 in a day, points in a day. In a week, it's 38.99 points, and in a month, 81.16 points. Okay, so moving on to the next market, which is the US dollar. I say this all the time, but the US dollar is responsible for about 80% of transactions worldwide every day. So we should be aware of it. Whether we trade it or not, we should be aware of what the US dollar is doing. So the US dollar at the moment has a confirmed upwards climate, thick blue dot there, probability upwards. The market would usually go up for 5 candles, and we're on candle number 1, meaning we have probability that it continues based on what usually happens. We also have buy orders beneath us that are pushing price upwards. That's 92.88 to 92.31. Already worked to push price up a little bit. So again, we want to know where they are. We're actually within them at the moment. And we've got a little bit of room to get up to the closest stack of sell orders, which is 93.75 to 93.455. So overall probability up here with the dollar, with a bit of room for it to continue. Now market volatility, this is the least volatile of the markets we look at. We expect movement in a year up or down of 5.17%. So in a day, that's 0.3 points. In a week, 0.67 points. And in a month, 1.38 points. So that is the US dollar. Now, last but not least is Bitcoin, backed Bitcoin specifically. So let's take a look at that. So with backed Bitcoin, what we have in this situation is a confirmed downwards climate, thick red dot here, probability downwards. We have sell orders here of 57,975 to 54,500. We have buy orders here of 41,460 to 37,437.5. Lots of digits in there. Overall, we're kind of floating in the middle there. And yes, we have slight probability down with the climate, but we're not really close to either stack of buy or sell orders to see them really have an impact today. Overall, slight probability down here with Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin is the most volatile market that we look at. We would expect movement in a year of 88.83%. It's not uncommon to see that go up to over 100% in a year. So this means in a day, at the moment, we would expect movement of 2,660.79. In a week, 5,857.45. And in a month, 12,193.25. Okay, so we've looked at each of these markets. We've looked at the climate, where we have probabilities up, down, or maybe nowhere. We have buy and sell UFOs, where we have buyers and sellers that could push price up or down respectively. And volatility, how quickly do we expect these markets to move? If you have any questions, you can always email me, becky@tradictive.com. If you have questions about the courses or the apps or anything like that, you can self-schedule a clarification call with one of our experts, talk it through with somebody. Now, just to round off, the weekly economic calendar to be aware of, we just about see there that we get this from fxstreet.com and we filter by high impact news. So what that means is we are looking for news that is scheduled to come out that is likely to have an impact on the markets and may increase volatility. So today being Friday, in a little while we might have news coming out on the US or in the US that could affect US markets or the US dollar. So be aware of that. Okay, so just to show you again, to get this email every day, you just need to get yourself a free Trade with UFOs membership. If you go to tradewithufos.com/Becky, you can get the membership at the top there. And then you can also post questions here, ask questions in this area, so I can answer them there and we can all learn from the same place. Otherwise, guys, hope you guys have a great end to your trading week, a great weekend ahead, and I will see you next week.